All right, good afternoon, everybody. This is Wall Street Jesus, Tuesday post-market wrap. Talk a little bit of what we're seeing early week. Go over some of the flow out there, see if the sweepers are providing any clues for the remainder of the week or over the short term. Touch on sentiment. And I just wanted to touch on a couple things because this is open to everybody and we have members on here as well. So I get a chance to also share some stuff with members and what to keep an eye out for. Because we're going into the heart of earnings season, and it can add a lot of confusion, just a lot of sloppiness. Those of you who have been on these webinars and have been with me through the years know probably have the same feelings when it comes to just earnings in general, right? Could be a crapshoot. It is a crapshoot, and the flow is pretty much in the same vicinity. All right, could get sloppy, mixed action, call buying, put buying in the same name. Could be extremely misleading. All right, I mean to the point where I try to get members of both the Steam Room and private Twitter to whatever action they see that catches an earnings date, take it down a grade, take it down a notch. So no matter what the size, no matter how good looking it may be, if it catches earnings, it's just not the same. And the quick explanation and reasoning for that is that over my experience over the years, I've realized that the option market is not just betting, right? It's primarily used, right? Professionals, the big money, use it for hedging and protective purposes. So it's difficult enough to try to figure out what stuff is legit out there in the order flow when the odds go up with an event or earnings, when the odds go up of players more likely to put on protection and hedge their positions, it's even that much more difficult to try to decipher what's what out there. All right, so I know for myself, and I know a lot of members, we try not to do too much and be too aggressive during earnings season, right? We could still play as far as the short term, and those of you who are members out there, especially on the newer side, if you're a new member, you can still trade off the momentum off sweeper activity. Forget the blocks or sweeper activity during earnings season. Whether or not it's earnings flow, in my opinion, is irrelevant. Okay, maybe you would see a lot more momentum if it wasn't, but you could still day trade off that action, especially if it's aggressive enough. All right, the problem is taking that overnight risk. Building a position, swing trading. It may not. More than likely, it's not worth that. Okay, but when it comes to day trading, if you like the spot, right? If you see the start, volume starting to come in and stock starting to get junked up, and you see sweeper after sweeper coming in, and you think you could take advantage of that momentum and price action for a trade, especially on an intraday basis, from me, you got the green light. All right. So that's what we try to do. I mean, in a simple explanation, I would say just during earnings season, I try to be a lot more tactical. I try to be quicker with the knife. All right. Stock could look good, look strong, still catching flow. And more than likely, I'm going to lock the profit in if I got it anyway. I got a quick trigger figure to begin with, but even more so during earnings season because it's bit me in the rear end. All right. For that simple reason, it's bitten me in the ass. And I got tired of, utilizing sweeper activity for momentum and, giving back the profits because I got stupid and tried to make more out of the flow than it was. All right. So the most important thing, the moral of the story here is understand and accept its earnings flow, no matter how good it looks, no matter what the size, and trade off what it is. Okay. So on that note, just to run quickly, well, let me start here so I don't jump around. Oh, I thought I saved it, I pinned it, and I didn't. Let me do this then. I think I could do it this way. Hold on. Bear with me. I thought I had it pinned. I think this is the way to do it. Yeah, of course. That would be too easy for me to use Twitter search. That would be way too easy for me. All right. So basically, what I've started to do, you guys know, sometimes I throw out a video, I get in my moods. A lot of times I'll just throw out a quick note. But sometimes I can't get my point across in words. But yesterday I put out the evening note, basically the key takeaways from that session that day in regards to flow and sentiment. And this was the point I was trying to get across. Kind of what we saw today in the action, okay? And I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, but this is what I meant by that. We are, if not already there, we're getting to the point where, as the bullish sentiment has been building here, okay, and it's not euphoric and it's not 1999, but because of the strong price action and basically the Fed going all out dovish, okay, there are a lot more bulls in the picture all of a sudden, okay? And for the simple reason of that and the strong price action to new highs, a lot of especially our shorter term indicators are on the hotter side, okay? Some of them are still not in any caution zone, which is incredible, all right? But we still have the one that obviously is concerning a lot of us is the daily sentiment index. You were up at 90-something% bulls going into yesterday, cooled off a bit yesterday, probably cooled off a little bit more today. And, from my experience, when you see that, all right, and there's a lot of overbought signals flashing out there, two things can happen. One, they punch the bulls in the face, right? So you get some selling, could last a couple of days, could last longer than that, but you get some selling to keep the bulls honest, all right? But another scenario that's happened a lot because of the bearishness out there, at least I think that's why, they basically will rotate and keep the market afloat, all right, just to screw the bears out there that are looking for a tactical short. Okay, if that makes sense. So you could call me a conspiracy theorist, call whatever you like. But when it's obvious that things may be a bit overbought and the bears are looking to get tactical on a short, right? Things may need to breathe and they will, but they're not going to make it that easy for the shorts to get paid. So instead, it ends up resolving in some chop, right? Or some sideways action with a bearish tilt to it, okay? And in the meantime, especially like where we're at now, earnings season, because we're in the hands of the earnings gods, basically, right? We have no idea how the numbers are going to look, how guidance is going to look, let alone the reaction to all of that. But during like this period of time, you'll see that they'll hit up FANG and big tech one day, right? Or for a couple of days, and then those things will go dead, right? There'll be some selling pressure there, and they'll start going into the industrials, maybe some healthcare, or maybe some gold or miners, so that constant rotation. And eventually what happens is, before you even realize it, you get, like I said, I'm trying to give an example of maybe where it happened in the past, just some congestion, okay? So basically, they're burning the longs and the shorts, right? Anybody who's looking to make a play on ES is kind of getting screwed, right? Because the move is not big enough. But the playbook for that type of environment, especially if you're seeing the flow to back it up or the rotation to back it up, is to stick to individual names, all right? Even for tactical purposes, like we're looking to be, through earnings season, or at least the first half of earnings season. All right, so meaning, I'll give you an example. Yesterday, if you ask me, nothing really went on in the market. I didn't even know whether we were up or down, to be honest. But there were select names yesterday that were catching really aggressive spec activity. All right. Those of you who are members know I can bring up one name and you know instantly, AMD, right? Just AMD in particular yesterday, right? Not today. We didn't see it today. But yesterday, for some reason, right off the open, sweepers just came in and started to annihilate upside calls, and a lot of them short term. So it wasn't even necessarily a play on AMD earnings per se. All right. So that's where, that's where you would look to take advantage of some momentum out there that, a natural eye without access to flow and everything we're looking at, you may not be able to see or see too late. All right. And that will keep you away from trying to make a bet on a big move where the odds aren't really in your favor. Okay. And look, if you're looking to be bullish here, okay, and you know me, I get the label perma bull. Now is not the time to really get aggressive, right, on the long side. Again, not that we're at a euphoric state right now, but there's a decent amount of bulls out there, and the risk, in my opinion, the risk would be to the downside because of that. All right, and those of you who like to short, this is where you would normally look for an entry on the short side. Ideally, you would like some of the other readings we look at religiously to get hot, okay? But that short game is a difficult game. You don't need me to go into a rant over that again, okay? So you got to stick to what the market's willing to give you right now. And in my opinion, that's the playbook here, okay? And you try to be more selective. You try to make sure you're sticking to names that are seeing activity and have some momentum. Because, a lot of times I see what people do is they'll play an AMD off that aggressive sweeper activity the day before, and they just automatically assume AMD is going to have that type of momentum for the next couple of days. So they'll play AMD today and AMD will do nothing or head lower. All right, so that's what you got to try to avoid. And that's the tricky part about, this type of climate we're in, where sentiment, given where sentiment is. I mean, does that make sense? You understand? Like, I don't even know what AMD did today, but, all of you who were following the Dow, I thought it was like flattish. Those of you who were following the flow today know, there may have been, I think there was actually even a put buyer here and there, but it was nowhere even near the action we saw yesterday. All right. And very easily, I see a lot of traders fall into the trap that automatically they assume that the flow is going to carry forward. And not only that, the momentum is going to be there. And a lot of times it's not. All right. And you're probably asking, well, why? What was all that flow yesterday? And here's the thing, right? We're seeing in the sentiment stuff we're seeing the funds and the players that really weren't participating starting to participate. All right. So the quickest way for them to get exposure to these type of names is through the option market, right? So that's why, we'll see a Facebook over an hour get tattooed, and then, for the next couple of days, it may go quiet. And there's no rhyme or reason, right? No rhyme or reason. What we are seeing a little bit more of now, which is great. We didn't see it today, but I can't complain about that because we've been lucky so far. We're starting to see some rotation type names catch decent action. All right. And again, I'm talking about spec action because a lot of them still have to report numbers. But, the last couple of days, we've been seeing names like SeaWorld and those type of names just catch clean cut spec action, nothing to do with earnings. And there's been some momentum there. All right. I don't even know what this thing did today, but, here, no, down, flat, whatever. But, this is an example. So you want to get in, you don't want to wear out your stay. SeaWorld looks great, right? If it wasn't earnings season and, earnings aren't in the way, they were July strikes anyway, maybe you would give it a longer leash. but it's something you got to look to take the profit off the table at some point before the momentum runs out and it's too late. All right, so does that make sense, especially those of you who are members? And does that make sense as far as strategy here? All right, because during this time, I promise you, especially if you're new, you can get frustrated. You have the follow through, you're waiting for that extra move higher, and all of a sudden they rotate out of certain names. It's not the time, I think, to wear out your stay in a lot of these things, regardless of the flow. All right, and what we're going to see, I think the one trade that's still in decent shape that I'm looking forward to is off the flow off the earnings reactions. Okay, especially in the rotation type names. All right, there are a lot of names out there that have been totally neglected, ignored. There's been nothing but selling and chop in a lot of these names. And we're going to get some real answers. The likelihood of some bad earnings, but they may not be as expected, as bad as expected. Kind of like what we saw in JB Hunt yesterday. All right, so there may be some opportunities where rather than a gap up, you get a little weakness off the number, and then we see some flow come into that weakness to set up an entry. One name that was on that page was Wells Fargo today. All right, you can see, right? Bad number. They obviously didn't like it, and caught some sweeper activity the size with some time behind it. But if you were looking at the banks, okay, and you didn't pull the trigger because of earnings, now you have an entry, a possible entry on these things. If they pull back off the number, and why wouldn't you like them then? All right, so that's what you're kind of looking for and waiting for off earnings. All right, so I still think we have this trade anyway, for the most part, at least through the first quarter or first half of earnings season. So on that note, this is what the top action, in my opinion, was today, and everything on here catches earnings. All right, that's why I had to start it off with that explanation. Everybody cool here? Everybody, any questions on what I said? If you don't ask questions and I'm just talking out of my rear end, we're spinning our wheels. Anybody new or anybody? You guys are going to laugh again. You want to laugh? You'll laugh. Those of you who know me will laugh. Those of you who don't will probably. I didn't have the responses open, and I thought just everybody's dead here. And now I opened it up and see your responses. All right, so anyway, here's the action today. We'll go over it quickly. Google, that's a good looking order, right? I mean, that's a good looking order. If that doesn't catch an earnings date, every member on the face of the earth is going to own Google off this order. But it is what it is. All right, so you like Google, you think you could play an earnings run up, you like the spot, right, for a trade, that's a different story. But otherwise, this would be a fantastic bet for a swing if it wasn't. This was one of the better overall activity today. Probably the most aggressive was MMM. All right, stock has been annihilated, finally found the bottom, and we were talking about this today in the room. I think this is they're going after the JBHT trade here, the JB Hunt trade, basically saying this quarter was an absolute nightmare. Okay, and you could see the price action off that earnings. Okay, everybody expecting a disaster here, and if it's not that bad, it's got some work to do to make up for this debacle. And you can see it's already working on that. So a couple of people are playing it for an earnings run up off the action today. I can't blame them. based off the size and how aggressive the action was. But again, earnings play, some decent size, but obvious earnings play. This is another one. They tattooed today. Earnings, Disca, October's. I think they all in all traded over 20,000 last I checked on these October calls. And this is a good looking stock. We've seen action in the past. The whole group has been pretty decent, this Disca. Look, been a strong name. Had a nice run off a niner here. Big action. You got earnings out in August. So I don't like the spot right here anyway. But if you guys think there's some more momentum to be had there, that's your call. Again, I'm here to tell you what activity is aggressive and worthwhile of taking a peek into. And this thing traded a lot today, this Disca. BABA, we've seen nothing but size into BABA. A lot of the size catching earnings. We have seen a little July action here or there, a lot smaller. All right, but just recently, I think it was right here, if I'm not mistaken. It might have been right here. I don't know. Right around here, they bought up September's and laid a ton of wood. You're talking about multi-million-dollar position in September calls in BABA. And today saw some more size, not as much as the initial size we saw in September, but one of the bigger bets, the larger bets, was this November sweep. Hertz, again, you can see, guys, a lot of, right? No earnings. You have a lot of nice action here. Hertz, big action here too. Icon, right? Icon involved in this. These are Jan sweeps, decent size, $500,000 here, another $250,000. There were some smaller ones around it. Jan 15s, open a new position. I love the spot. I absolutely love the spot. Earnings are August 6th. So, kind of a tough call. Now, this is not really the name you're going to play for momentum, even though it has its spurts, right? But pretty decent spot, gap down here and just been dead. There wasn't earnings here. I'd definitely be in the Jan calls, without a doubt. And here's the other problem, okay? If you're going to play the Hertz, there's no reason to play Jan calls unless you're going to hold through the quarter. If you're not going to hold through earnings, there's no reason to play Jan. All right, so if you're playing the run-up, play something a lot shorter, out August. If you're going to hold through the quarter, then obviously you can tail that line. So what else we got? Facebook. Now, Facebook's been catching. I mean, the hedge funds are buying. We know that. And the hedge funds will be buying Facebook, and they have been. You guys remember, what was it, Friday with 10 minutes before the bell? Ridiculous buying came in with 10 minutes before the bell on Friday. Today, pretty quiet overall, but this one order was decent looking, and there was some action behind it. About a $700,000 bet, probably $1 million when it was all said and done. Opens a new line, nice wood, everything you want to see in an order outside of catching earnings. JD, I've been getting a lot of questions on these webinars with JD, a lot of flow. Okay, most of the size in JD has again been catching earnings. There's been some shorter dated spec action that doesn't catch earnings. I guess you can use to trade off momentum. But all the good looking stuff in JD has been further out than they report anyway. September 31 calls. This all came in one little band. That was the only really noteworthy buying I saw there today. Here's the Wells Fargo sweep. I'm definitely going to keep an eye on it. These have a lot of time, right? You got June of next year. So a ton of time. So maybe they hit a line more appealing to you guys if you're interested. The only issue I had with Wells Fargo today the action there was hectic, a lot of flow. And I think the reason for that, a lot of July positions were just being pushed out for more time. So you really couldn't tell what was clean and what wasn't. So what I would recommend, if you're interested in the banks or Wells Fargo, keep an eye on the action in coming days. As the overall flow there calms down, things will be a lot clearer, right? Things will clean up. But here, you know, pretty big bet here. This was one of them. This one was for 800 grand. There was another one for $500,000. So pretty big bets, big size bets there. Big bets, big bets. All right, so that's the top action. I got a lot of stuff for you today. Hold on a second. Here's another thing, members. I would recommend you guys start to look at, especially if we get some follow through, rotation, underbelly type action. This is unusual call activity per se, but a lot of names that build up flow throughout the day you will see on here. All right, a lot of names we may not be talking about that you may want to put on a watch list, and you see a decent looking sweep come in, you be ready. But something to pay attention to, when you're looking for momentum and you're looking for under the radar type stuff. All right, a lot of times you're going to see names we saw some decent size orders. But sometimes you'll see names. What's one name in particular? Silver. This was silver. We saw a lot of these names today. PVTL. Those were lottos. ZAG. I don't remember seeing anything in ZAG noteworthy. All right, but you may want, especially you equity players out there, you may want to pay attention to that. All right. As far as sentiment is concerned, the put to call was hot early morning. Hottish, okay, and once we got that wash, we pretty much looked like we neutraled out. All right, so this is where the trade alert put the call finished. We'll see where the CBOE data finishes when that updates later tonight. All right, what else did I want to say? Oh, let's take a look at this quick. A lot of you guys find it this stuff interesting. This is the BAML survey. I don't know if you guys got a chance to look at this today when I posted. All right, so this is sentiment pushed out by Bank of America Merrill Lynch. All right, and it gives you basically month to month what players are doing, all sorts of players, from just your regular investor to hedge funds to institutions. All right, and as a whole, it looks like they started to buy equities again. They've been shy. They've been really defensive. They've been all in bonds, right? You've heard that talked about over and over and over. Huge cash position. Remember we were talking about that. So like we've been seeing in the hedge fund reading and some of the other indicators, it looks like some of that money parked on the sidelines has been put to work. Even ETF flows had a big jump up the last couple of days. All right, so some of that money being put into the market. A lot of times, people want to know whether it's bullish, bearish. A lot of it's bearish at extremes. I mean, bullish and bearish at extremes. All right. But when that money starts to come into the market, as you can see, as we've been seeing with price action, the price action benefits. It's big money being put to work, and players are buying, individual names and ETFs. It's going to create higher prices. What from my experience, what you see from time to time when you get these noticeable bursts, you'll get a little bit of a pause or a little bit of a pullback. And that's kind of where we're at now. The market's already rallied hard, new highs, and we're starting to see confirmation of a little giddy up on their end. All right, so this is on private Twitter. If you guys want to take a peek, I posted some to regular Twitter. You can see here, look at this. Investors still position low growth and low rates. Look at that cash position. Crazy, right? Staples, healthcare, bonds. This is all defensive stuff, man. Look at this. Right? And all the risk on stuff down here. Look at this. Okay, so that's bullish. Right? That's a bullish backdrop there. That's a bullish backdrop. Okay, not the next couple days, but that's a bullish backdrop there. Here, this is what really caught our eye. I don't know if it was it was last month. You had a big spike in cash, right? Players raising cash. That means they're pooping their bloomers. They don't want to be in stocks, right? That pretty much nailed those lows with a lot of other sentiment indicators there. And, less cash now, but still up there, right? Still up there. That's a lot of cash that needs to be put to work. It's not all going to be done in one shot. Let's see what else we got. I like this from them. The most crowded trades. Treasuries. Long U.S. technology stocks. Short European equities. And then you got long dollar. FANG used to be on top of the list for a long time. So again, treasuries, right? The most crowded trade. A lot of times that will result in a bullish scenario for equities. What else we got here? I got a couple others that are interesting. There's a million of these things they post. This is flows. Oh, yeah. So here you can see it's showing basically the buying that started coming in here. All right, you can see at bottoms, that's what usually happens, right? They go from sellers, they want nothing to do with it, and then eventually they flip over. Look at this. 2016 took forever. Here's what some of the big boys are doing. Institutional clients. This is showing what they've been buying. So mid cap, large cap, small cap still neglected. Maybe we see some possible rotation into small caps. That'll be a lot of fun. Here's hedge fund net buys. Here's what the hedge funds are buying. So this is what we're seeing off that hedge fund indicator we've been seeing. See that? That's where they were. Oh, that's the 4-week average. Short. And now they're over here. Well, actually now they're over here from what we're seeing. Net long. Well, this could be just BAML though. And this is what they're buying, even though they're not buying much or shorting. Here's what they're short. What are they short? Commercial services, financials, industrials. That's hedge funds. Down here, institutions. And you could see while the hedge fund mopes have been shorting, the big boys, what have they been doing? Oh, the big boys. All right? Gobbling up shit. Yeah, they really are, Mike. They really are. It's gotten to that point now where they're considered dumb money. All right, so here are the institutions. We know, I mean, they're not dumb because they move freaking markets, but there you go. Institutions have been buying. I think I have the next chart shows how much and how long they've been buying. And institutions, looks like consumer discretionary, have started to buy financials, tech, staples, industrials, sellers of healthcare, and some of the other defensive stuff. But healthcare, well, healthcare is defensive too. Healthcare is defensive too. This is buybacks. This is crazy. While there's insider selling, right? There's a pretty big bump in insider selling recently. So while the insiders are selling, the companies themselves are buying back stock. How fun is that? Isn't that great? And now it's a buyback, and then your CEO, CFO, and COO can dump their stock into that buyback. Whoop-de-doop-de-doo. What a game, huh? What a game. So this is the buyback. That's scary. Again, all on private Twitter. I'll throw it in the market updates as well when we're done here. There was one more thing I wanted to show you where, hold on, is this it? Hedge funds, institutions, no. Oh, it's on the next thing here. There it is. So here's the institutional money. So they've been net buying since May. So them too, they got caught short, and now, since May, have been on the buy side. All right, that's what that shows us. Look at all this selling through here. Jesus, crazy. And I think that's all I have for you there. All right, so some fun stuff there as well. I'll get to some questions here, and then we can wrap it up and call it an evening. Let me see here. Anybody have any questions or any names or anything like that that has piqued their interest that they may be curious about? What do I think about Skechers and Tesla? Earnings and earnings, Pablo. That's what I think about Skechers and Tesla. So I really have no opinion. I mean, Skechers, right, caught a decent amount of action today. Catches earnings. Earnings coming up here. So here's what I would say on Skechers. July 18th, they report. I would wait for earnings. If they sell it and you see some flow come in, there's your entry on Skechers. Otherwise, I mean, the only other way, Pablo, the only other way to play it is if you were to say, all right, I think I can catch a little push, over the next, couple days? They report in a couple days. If you're talking about an earnings play, Pablo, the flow tells us nothing about earnings. Zero. You know what I mean? Just because there's call activity doesn't mean that they're going to report some great earnings and the stock is going to have a great reaction. Guys, it's hard enough. Like here's what I mean by that, okay? Let's say a little birdie told you JB Hunt was going to come out with another bad quarter here. Okay? So a little birdie told you JB Hunt was going to shit the bed again this quarter. You buy puts, but it wasn't as bad as the quarter before, so the stock gapped up 8. That's what I'm saying. It's hard enough to get, whether the earnings are going to be good or bad. It's hard enough to get that side right, let alone the reaction to those good or bad numbers. It's a total crapshoot. Total crapshoot. What else? 5. Yossi, you remember, I'm sure you do. I think you do. 5, when we saw that sweeper activity, a couple of us bought the name, and that's why I didn't want to let go of my stock, because I had a good idea they probably wouldn't sweep it again for another year, at least. So that's the problem. 5 doesn't catch as much action as we would like. You could ask Tim about that in Priceline Booking and all the other names he's dying to catch sweeper activity in. That's what makes, I always do it to you, Tim. Once a webinar, I do it to you. That's what makes these rare sweeps so juicy, in these names. You don't see them, and when they swing it at them, they usually do well in them, right? The Amazons, the Googles, the SRPTs, even though SRPT probably catches the most of those type of sweeps. But those rare sweeps come around once in a blue moon in these names, and when you see them, that's why they're noteworthy. As opposed to like AMD, where we see sweepers 50 deep every day. You know what I'm saying? So I would like to see another sweep in 5. I definitely would, especially down here. What else? Are you hearing any inside chat that Trump is going to add extra tariffs? Golly, I don't have any inside chat. If I had any inside chat, I wouldn't be here talking to you. But I could tell you what I know. They're sweeping FXI calls into the trade war news. So wise guys aren't too phased. Yeah. Yeah, there was September calls. So something to keep an eye on. And some of these Chinese stocks look okay, right? They've been catching some action. If it wasn't earnings involved, they would look really, really good based off the flow. So I wouldn't forget what Trump is doing, man. Do you see what he's done to this market? Do you guys have any idea of what he's done? And I think it's Mnuchin. You ask me, I think it's Mnuchin behind the scenes. It's like he has a puppet in this market. He does whatever he wants. He wants the market to go down and he wants rate cuts. He'll start talking up the trade war. Okay? He wants the market to go higher so he can brag about it and campaign on it. He'll talk about how great the trade agreements are going and this and that and that. You understand? This has been going on forever since the guy got elected. Every single thing he's done or has come out of his mouth that caused a sell-off was the best buying opportunity you could possibly find. I remember early on when Gary Cohn, remember Gary Cohn? Oh, if Gary Cohn ever leaves, that's it. He's everything. He's the market. He's the economy. The selling lasted 2 days. The market rallied so hard after that. You forgot Gary Cohn was part of the administration. It's Mnuchin, I'm telling you. Mnuchin, you don't understand Mnuchin, what you got there. You know what I mean? December, cash, what do you do in December? Markets started unraveling, a little bit of liquidity, right? He got on the horn, bink, bink, bink. Case closed, right? That was it. That took care of that liquidity problem. So, yeah, maybe eventually it comes to a head and blows up. But, right, the proof is in the pudding right now. And you got this guy running for election, right? Re-election. So what do you think they're going to try to do? You think they're going to try to weigh on the economy and the market? They want the rate cuts. Once they have the rate cuts, they got free money out there with a stable economy. Things might go cuckoo. Yeah, exactly. Then the China deal, right after that, right before the he runs for election, and you got Dow 80,000. What else, you guys? Yeah, Bob. I don't know much about that. Yes, Baba's going on to Hong Kong and doing some split, right? I don't know the details about that. Is that done deal? I don't know. I don't know the details on that. Yeah, Paul. You can see it's obvious, right? He bashes Powell every minute he can. He wants the rate cuts. You see, the economic numbers aren't that bad. So he's got to talk up the trade war. He's got to make it look like there's no light at the end of the tunnel. So it can weigh on China, weigh on global markets. That's what they're doing. So they create some fear. Listen, we want a pullback, right? We would love some sort of pullback. We would love it. But this market hasn't pulled back for a reason up till now, is because there really hasn't been any retail buying, any buyers in here besides the smart money. Now they're just starting to come in. Now they're just starting to come in. They're rat bastards. They're rat bastards indeed. So, but here's the thing, okay? Again, you're going to say, oh, Jesus, shut up about this already. The rotation play, the rotation trade, the reflation trade, that's what it's all about right now, in my opinion, okay? For this market to really get into gear, and honestly, I can't even say that because the market's been already into gear, but for us to really be able to have some decent opportunities, decent entries out there, not for quick trades. I'm talking about stuff, decent trades. We need that rotation, and the signs are there. Remember, we were talking the last time we spoke about this, there weren't any signs. We wanted the rotation, but there were no signs of it. We're starting to see signs of that major rotation. Okay? And that doesn't mean they're rotating necessarily out of tech and software and they're going to sell those and they're going to get killed. Okay? But it's just going to mean that there may be outperformance in the other groups. For Christ's sake, at least the other groups may be able to gain some traction, right? Form an uptrend for a couple months. Think about that. We haven't had that since that rally where he got elected. For whoever was trading after the Trump election, okay? Do you guys remember that time? It was psychotic. We get something like that again, right? And let it be the blow off. Who cares? Whatever it is. But if we get that type of rotation again, you're talking about some nice opportunities. Boeing, Ranchero, every big conglomerate you can think of. Boeing, Caterpillar, Deere. It was nuts. It was nuts. So those things at best have been languishing, doing nothing, and for good reason, right? The global economy has been in the shithouse. There are reasons for it. I'm not saying illegitimate, but if there's rotation back into those things, all right, forget even the big guys. What about the underbelly of that stuff? The underbelly. And it's earnings season, so I don't want to even point to the flow yet and say I'm seeing signs there, even though we are, right? X showing a little life with some flow, but it could be earnings, right? So we want to wait after they report, after all these names report. I think we're going to get the answer we all want, whether these things are in play or they're going to sit around and do Gats on Ghoul. All right, because if we start to see them, Cash, you remember X when they were buying the daylights out of it? It was the best stock on the face of the earth. And the other one, STLD and Nucor, you remember those things? Look at this. Since then, this was the move here. Look at this. Craziness. And then here, topped out here. It's been in this downtrend ever since. So if these things come back into play and start, working on the right side of this chart and then busting highs, that's why you got to be ready for it. And a lot of the riffraff out there have been trained to ignore these things, right? And focus on hot tech. And hot tech, there'll be names that do well, I'm sure, but some of the names that have rallied for 10 straight years, they may get a little choppy, and these things are going to go nuts. All right. But so I was saying the flow, I'm not even considering the flow signs yet because of earnings, right? It could be just earnings position. It could be shorts that have been short these things, raking in the money, and are just protecting their short positions. That could be the call activity very easily. We have no idea. All right. Post earnings, I think we get a better answer whether it's real or not. But some of the signs that the smart money is getting involved in these things have been coming in other places. They've been coming, in the COT data we look at, right? Remember the industrials. They got net long for the first time since 2015. We were talking about last month. Okay. Now, this week, right? Copper, right? The net long copper, pushing on copper here. You're starting to see signs of that reflation, the smart money getting behind that reflation trade. And that could be good stuff. That could be good stuff. So we'll see how it plays out. Again, post earnings will tell us a lot. Because one thing I can promise you is that there'll be sweeper activity if these things are ready to get junked up. There's not a doubt in my mind about that. There's not a doubt in my mind. Any unusual bets? Where, Tim? What name are you talking about? Ricky saying Qualcomm up in the after hours. Why? They didn't report, did they? Unusual bets in rotation names? Or you're just saying in general? No, there was nothing today. Yeah, earnings though. There was nothing like Shamu or anything like that didn't catch earnings. All the stuff was earnings related. Yeah, and that's the thing, Bill. We're seeing names. Well, we're seeing those names see flow, but it could be earnings related. That's the problem. That's the problem. And by the way, the other part of the rotation that we're not talking about are the small caps. That's a lot of fun too. That's what I mean. As even when short-term sentiment gets a little hot, right? That's why I can't even think about shorting anything. I can't even position short. Don't even ask me what's a decent off flow, a name to short for a swing. I can't even, my mind doesn't even go there. This is this is the stuff that I'm trying to get myself ready for, because when it comes, I want to be able to make a dent. I want to be able to make a dent. For me, I'm not going to make a dent in Twilio up here. I'm not going to make a dent in Twilio up here. I can't do it. I can't do it. And Microsoft, yeah, it's a great trade when it's down. It catches some sweeper activity. I can't, I can't build a position in Microsoft up here and give it a leash. I'm not wired that way on a, risk reward wise. So, and that's been part of the problem. I'm not going to lie. That's been part of the problem for me, is that, the stuff I really like to lay into, hasn't been around because they've been buying a lot of the same names over and over and over again, right? They've been the leaders of this market, no doubt. We've all made decent hits in these names, but, up here now, it's a different story. So we'll see. That's what, again, small caps and reflation. And the small caps look good, By the way, that's another thing that's really, really close. I mentioned it today in the steam room. I would love for this to chill another week or so here through the early, the meat of earnings season a bit. And we get a week or two from the Sharpies, the hedgers, see if they're adding to longs. And then you know how to make a dent, right? We all know how to make a dent. If we get sharp money buying, stepping on the gas in small caps, we all know how to make a dent. You put on some TNA and call it the month. Bum, 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 bum. What is he saying? Wells Fargo. Yeah, Wells Fargo, I spoke about it a little bit earlier. I mean, personally, I'm keeping an eye on the action here till it cleans up, and I'm going to see what they buy here. I'm going to see what they buy here. But I'm more concerned with the post-earnings flow than anything else, because, that I'll know it's clean. The order, oh no, what'd I do here? Where'd there it is. The order in Wells Fargo today, that was impressive, but I don't know how clean it is this June order. There was some other stuff smaller down on the bottom here. June 45s. And, you got 51,000 of these in open interest. So you kind of want to make sure these stick. But that's a lot of time, That's a lot of time. And anybody have, be good, Cash. I'm wrapping up now anyway. Anybody have any last questions or thoughts or prayers they want to add before we call it an evening? I forgot to do it again, right? Before I run here, if anybody is new and is interested in taking a peek at what we do as far as sweeper activity and sentiment, we got a 3 free day trial, no credit card, bink, bink, bink. And you could get an idea over the 3 days, somewhat of an idea over the 3 days of what we're trying to accomplish. Private Twitter, if you're interested, you could get that individually. If you sign up for the premium package, private Twitter is included. But you could get private Twitter by itself for $59.99 a month. If you're looking to go the cheaper route, it's all the same flow. Private Twitter, it's all the same flow. I mean, the biggest thing is you got me on audio calling out the activity, and you got a lot of traders who are actively trading throughout the day, and pretty decent traders. So, trading technicals and sweeper activity together, trading off sentiment. So if you're looking to develop a trader style, I would suggest you give the room a shot initially. But if you're looking just for the flow, you could probably just do private Twitter. All right, guys, we're good. Stay quick. Look towards individual names for Momo until we get through some of the meat of earnings season. All right, we take it day by day here. Hopefully they cool off a little bit of the hot sentiment and we're good to go. All right, be good, stay bullish. Good luck the rest of the week.